Gothenburg surprised me in the best way. In just 2 days, you can wander along quiet canals, explore cozy historic streets, catch those wide-open waterfront views, and still find hidden local spots most travelers miss. I'll show you the exact route I'd take, plus the tips that make everything smoother. Let's get into it. Day 1. Central Gothenburg highlights. Morning, Trädgårdsföreningen Park and Palmhouse. We're starting the day by dropping straight into a 19th century glass cathedral. Trädgårdsföreningen runs right along the water and acts as the city's lungs, covering about 13 hectares or 32 acres of manicured lawns and gravel paths that have been the local hangout since 1842. The real showstopper is the Palmhouse. It's a massive structure of glittering glass and cast iron from 1878 that looks like it was plucked right out of Victorian London. Stepping right through the doors is a total trip. 1 second you're in a crisp Swedish morning, and the next you're hit with a wall of tropical heat that has you peeling off your jacket. It's a leafy, quiet sanctuary where the rattle of the city trams just fades away. Take the time to navigate the narrow iron spiral staircases to the upper walkways, where you can stand level with the palm fronds and actually feel the jungle vibe. Entry to both the park and the heat in the gas house is entirely free, and 30 minutes is plenty of time to explore. Insider tip. If you're here between June and August, you have to hit the Rose Garden. It's one of the most celebrated spots in Northern Europe, with over 1,200 different species. It's a massive explosion of color and the best place to find a bench and just breathe before the midday crowds start to move in. City canals. Follow the water out of the park and into the city canals. This is where you really get to see the city's bones. Gothenburg was essentially carved out of a marsh by Dutch engineers in the 1600s, and walking this stretch lets you see that gritty, stone-lined history up close. You'll feel the harbor breeze picking up as the streets open up toward the water, which is a welcome shift from the park's humidity. It's a great spot to watch the flat-bottomed padan boats squeeze under bridges that look like they only have a few centimeters or inches of clearance. There's a massive sense of scale here. Seeing the wider stone quays makes you realize the sheer amount of work that went into reclaiming this land from the sea. Insider tip. If you look closely at the canal walls near the bridges, you can see the original iron rings used by merchant ships hundreds of years ago. It's a small detail that most people walk right past, but it's a direct link to the city's old-school trading days. Gothenburg Cathedral. Cut away from the water and head into the heart of the shopping district, where Gothenburg Cathedral, or Domkyrkan, sits, set back from the frantic pace of the high street. This is actually the third version of the church to stand here because the city's early history was basically a series of fires, but this heavy stone structure has held its ground since 1815. The transition is a total mood shift. You step from the clatter of the blue trams and the street performers into a deep, resonant silence that feels like it's holding its breath. If your timing is right, the organist will be practicing, and the sound is so massive, it literally vibrates through the floorboards and into your chest. Outside the surrounding grassy yard is a rare patch of peace where locals hide out on stone benches to reset before diving back into the boutiques. Late morning, Gustav Adolfs Torg. Walk into Gustav Adolfs Torg, the massive stone square that serves as the city's civic heart. You can't miss the statue of King Gustav Adolf II in the center. He's pointing at the ground where he supposedly decided the city would be built. The square feels wide and very open, so you'll definitely feel the wind whipping through here if it's a typical breezy day. On one side, you have the grand White Stock Exchange building, and on the other, the City Hall. Take a second to look at the City Hall's extension. It was designed by the famous architect Gunnar Asplund in the 30s. The mix of old-school stone and that famous functionalist wood is one of those details that makes the city's design history feel real. Around 11 a.m., the square shifts from a quiet commuter path to a hub for lunch. This is when the food trucks roll in. You'll start smelling wood smoke and grilled meat. Look for the trucks serving reindeer or fried herring. Grab a coffee and just stand by the statue for a minute. You'll hear the constant ding-ding of the blue trams pulling into Brunnsparken just a block away. It's a busy, functional space that doesn't try too hard to be pretty, but it's exactly where you feel the city's merchant-class pulse. Gothenburg City Museum. Just head down the block to Gothenburg City Museum. It's housed in the original 1700s headquarters of the Swedish East India Company, a massive building that once held all the tea, silk, and porcelain coming into the country. It was a solid, heavy-set structure that gives you a clear idea of how much wealth was flowing through this port. Inside, you're looking at 12,000 years of history, but the main reason to be here is the Eskishar ship. This is the only original Viking ship on display in Sweden. You can get close enough to see the actual wood grain and the iron rivets in the oak hull. It's smaller than you might expect for an ocean-crossing vessel, which makes the fact that it survived at all even more impressive. I recommend setting aside 2 hours for this. The exhibits are laid out chronologically, so you can move from prehistoric bone tools through the medieval era and into the city's rise as an industrial powerhouse. Entry is $10, and the ticket is an annual pass that gets you into several other museums in the city, so hang on to the receipt. Afternoon, lunch at Ma Cuisine. While heading west from the museum toward the historic district, pull into Ma Cuisine. This is a tight, high-energy French bistro that trades in classic flavors. It feels like a hidden neighborhood secret, loud, cramped, and smells like garlic and butter. Grab a seat for the lunch specialty, usually featuring fresh-caught fish or a classic steak frita. Expect to pay between $15 and $25 for a meal that hits a lot harder than the price suggests. German Church. Right next to the museum and your lunch spot, you'll find the German Church or Christinekirche. It was built for the German merchant community that basically ran the city's trade back in the 1600s. It's much more imposing than the main cathedral. When you step inside, the first thing you'll notice is how dark and rich everything looks. The heavy wood and gold details really show off how much money those traders had. It's a quick stop, but when you're standing under that massive copper spire, you get a real sense of how much influence the German settlers had on the city's early look. Kronhuset. A short walk brings you to Kronhuset, which is the oldest secular building in the city. It was originally built in the mid-1600s as a military storehouse for artillery and grain. The red brick courtyard is a complete change of pace. The ground is covered in uneven cobblestones that'll have you watching your step, and the massive timber frames of the surrounding buildings have somehow survived centuries of city fires. It's a much slower, quieter corner of the city where you can actually watch glassblowers and smiths working in the small studios. Insider tip. Skip the generic gift shops. I recommend looking at the small leatherwork shop tucked into the corner of the courtyard. The smell of the tanned hide hits you as soon as you open the door, and the craftsmanship is top tier. It's one of the few places where you can actually see the city's old school artisan culture still in action. Late afternoon, Lilla Bommen and Maritiman. Finish the day's main activities down at the port in Lilla Bommen. The space really opens up here, giving you clear views over the Gotha River and the red and white skyscraper that locals call the Lipstick. You'll definitely feel the wind getting much sharper and colder as you get closer to the water. Maritiman is the highlight. It's a floating museum made up of 15 different ships all tied together. I recommend this if you don't mind tight spaces. Scrambling through the narrow, oily corridors of a destroyer or climbing down into the belly of a submarine is a very real experience. You'll be bumping your shoulders against cold metal and smelling diesel and salt, which gives you a genuine idea of how grueling life at sea was for those crews. Entry is $17, and you should give yourself at least 2 hours to climb through the various decks. Evening. Dinner at Avenyn. After the port, head south to Avenyn, the grand boulevard of Gothenburg. This is where the city comes to show off in the evening. It's lined with a massive variety of restaurants and bars and has a high-energy, mission-oriented vibe. For a neon-soaked explosion of Thai street food, go to Moon Thai Kitchen. If you want a more refined, low-key end to your day, Bar Palavas offers small plates and a solid wine list. Expect to spend between $25 and $45 to close out the night. Day 2. Nature, views, and local charm. Morning, Gothenburg Botanical Garden. For the second day, head south of the city center to start the morning in one of the largest botanical gardens in Europe. The Gothenburg Botanical Garden spans 175 hectares or 432 acres, so be ready for a lot of walking. It starts with refined flower beds near the entrance, but quickly turns into a rugged landscape of rocky hills and woods. You want to set aside at least 3 hours here if you plan to see more than just the entrance. Look for the Japanese garden. It's a very quiet, balanced space with small waterfalls and wooden bridges. It's the most popular section for a reason, as the design is incredibly precise. While entry to the main park is free, there is a turnstile at the gate where they suggest a voluntary donation of about $2. Insider tip: if you want to see the most impressive part of the park, follow the signs up to the rock garden. It's built into a massive craggy stone hillside and is actually world-renowned for growing rare plants that usually only survive at high altitudes. The terrain gets a bit steep here, but the view from the top of the rocks gives you a clear look over the canopy of the arboretum below. Brunch at Botaniska Paviljonen. Once the morning air starts to sharpen your appetite, stop at Botaniska Paviljonen. It sits right inside the park grounds, so you don't have to break from the rhythm of the walk. This is a classic Swedish summer pavilion where you can grab a prawn sandwich or a plate of meatballs with lingonberries. Sitting on the terrace here, you're surrounded by the greenery you just walked through. A meal and coffee will run you around $15 to $20. Afternoon, Haga District. Next, head over to Haga, the city's oldest suburb. Walking onto these original cobblestone streets, you'll immediately notice the Landshövdinge House, unique houses with a stone first floor and 2 wooden floors above. This was a clever workaround for old fire laws, and seeing them lined up gives you a clear look at 19th century Gothenburg before the modern steel buildings took over. It's a very compact neighborhood, so you can ditch the map and just weave through the 3 or 4 main parallel streets. You'll likely catch the scent of cinnamon coming from the bakeries long before you see them. The area's packed with independent shops, but watch your footing on the stones. They're uneven and can be a bit of a workout for your ankles if you're in thin shoes. It takes about 45 minutes to walk the length of the district if you're just browsing the storefronts and antique displays. Insider tip: you really shouldn't leave without seeing a Hagabulen. If you head to Café Husaren on the main street, you'll see cinnamon buns the size of a dinner plate sitting in the window. They are a local staple, but honestly, don't try to finish one by yourself. They're massive and much better if you split one with a friend. It's a fun stop, though it gets very crowded on weekends, so try to snag a table toward the back where it's a bit quieter. Late afternoon, Skansen Kronan. From the flat streets of Haga, look up. You'll see a massive stone crown sitting on top of that hill, the Skansen Kronan. To get there, you'll have to haul yourself up a long, steep flight of stairs or take the winding path up Risosberget. Your legs will definitely feel the climb, but the payoff is the best 360-degree view of Gothenburg. The fortress was built in the 1600s to defend against the Danes, though it never actually saw a single battle. Today, it's mostly used for private events, so you likely won't get inside, but the heavy stone walls and the cannons still standing on the ramparts give the place a serious, grounded energy. Evening, dinner cruises. As the sun starts to dip, head back toward the water at Lilla Bommen. This is where you'll decide how you want to see the coast. Stroma runs the big, classic dinner cruises that'll head out into the southern archipelago. These are structured 3-hour experiences where you eat fresh seafood while watching the granite islands slide past. Expect to pay around $75 for the full dinner package. If you want something faster and more central, jump on a padan boat. These are flat-bottomed tour boats that navigate the city's low bridges. You literally have to duck your head as you pass under some of them. It's a 50-minute loop through the canals and out into the harbor for about $20. It's less of a commitment, but gives you a great perspective of the city's industrial scales from the waterline. Insider tip: if you take the Padan tour, try to sit in the middle of the boat. When the guide tells everyone to duck for the cheese slicer bridge, they aren't joking. It's a tight squeeze, and being in the center gives you the best view of the harbor cranes as you exit the canal. Useful info for spending 2 days in Gothenburg. Best time to visit Gothenburg. May through September is when Gothenburg actually works. Temperatures stay comfortable, usually hovering between 15 to 25 degrees Celsius or 59 to 77 degrees Fahrenheit, which makes walking the city and spending time by the water enjoyable. July and August are the warmest months, usually reaching 25 degrees Celsius or 77 degrees Fahrenheit, with daylight that stretches late into the evening. Winter is a different story, with temperatures dropping closer to 0 to 5 degrees Celsius or 32 to 41 degrees Fahrenheit. During these colder months, many attractions reduce their hours or close entirely, which limits what you can realistically do with your time. City airport tips. You'll arrive at Gothenburg Landvetter Airport, located about 25 kilometers or 15 miles from the city center. The most reliable option is the Flygbussarna airport bus, which runs frequently and takes around 25 to 30 minutes to reach the heart of the city. Tickets cost about $14 and drop you directly at the central station. Taxis are widely available outside and take roughly 20 to 25 minutes depending on the traffic, usually costing between $60 and $75. Ride-hailing apps also operate in the area, but the pricing is generally similar to local taxis. Where to stay in Gothenburg? Staying in the central area keeps the logistics of a short trip simple. Around Central Station and Nordstan, you're within walking distance of almost every stop on the first day, with hotels typically ranging from $130 to $230 per night. For a more local feel, Haga offers quieter streets and historic surroundings, with hotels usually priced between $140 and $210. If you prefer something newer and slightly less busy, the areas around the waterfront near Lilla Bommen have modern hotels, often priced between $150 and $250. How to get around Gothenburg? Gothenburg is very easy to navigate on foot, especially for a 2-day stay. Most central areas are walkable, particularly the routes through the historic core. The tram system is the main form of public transport and runs across the entire city. A single ticket costs $4 and is valid for 90 minutes with unlimited transfers. A 24-hour pass costs about $12 and is the most practical option if you plan to move between further points like the Botanical Garden and the waterfront. Where to eat in Gothenburg? Gothenburg's food scene leans heavily into its North Sea roots, but you'll find strong options across different neighborhoods if you know where to look. Around Magasinsgatan, Magazzino is a reliable choice for Italian dishes done properly. It's a high-energy spot that focuses on quality, especially their linguine with fresh seafood and artisanal sourdough pizzas. Standing in this busy shopping district, it feels almost like a hidden corner of Milan. Most mains land between $22 and $38. The atmosphere's loud and authentic, making it a solid choice for a meal that feels both central and substantial. Near Linnéagatan, Taverna Averna offers a more relaxed setting with Mediterranean-style mains. The interior is covered in local art, and the vibe is classic bistro, unfussy but refined. You'll find dishes like pan-fried char with spring vegetables, or their signature steak tartare on the menu. Prices typically fall in the $20 to $35 range. It's the kind of place where you can sit and watch the city's creative crowd drift in and out. For a dedicated plant-based option, Blackbird stands out as a vegan powerhouse in the Stigberget area. This is a vegan cooperative focusing on heavy comfort food like handmade Zeitan steaks, smoky tempeh burgers, and loaded plates of mac and cheese. Most meals are priced between $15 and $25. The space has a gritty, independent energy that fits the neighborhood's maritime history, and the food is consistent enough to satisfy even the most dedicated meat eaters. And that wraps up your 2 days in Gothenburg. From peaceful canals and historic streets to botanical gardens and views over the city, you've covered a lot without rushing, and that's exactly how this place works best. If this guide helped you plan things out, hit like and subscribe for more trips like this. And if you're ready for your next stop, Copenhagen is just a short trip away. Check out that guide next.